What's going on, guys? Jurassic here. Today we're going to be learning how to use Blender. We're going to be wrapping our text around in a curve. So let's start off by getting rid of the default cube. Now we're also going to try to keep this as beginner friendly as possible. So we're going to go over a few basic things before we actually get into it. So there's going to be three different axes, X, Y, Z. X is going to be red. Y, we're actually looking directly into it right now, so it's going to be invisible. But as soon as we start panning around the camera, we'll show you guys where it's at. And Z is going to be this blue axis here. Now there's two different ways to add an object. You can click on the top left corner here and click on add, or if you do shift and A at the exact same time, it's going to pop up this little quick menu, and you want to do a circle. Now we want to have it so it's faced directly towards us, just like the Y axis right now. So we're going to RY 90, and we're going to pan the camera around like so here, and you can see the Y axis. Now the Z is going to be completely invisible since we're sort of inside that axis at the moment. So we're going to click G to move Y, that way it stays on the Y axis, and just slowly move this curve out the way here. Now we're going to go back into the regular default view, or you can click one on the numpad and it's going to automatically pop us back here. So the circle is now placed, so we're going to do Shift A. We are going to add text. You want to do RX 90, that way the text is going to be facing us. Now we need to add a modifier, that way the text can actually wrap around the circle. To do that, there's going to be a wrench down here in the right side of the screen here, and click on add modifier. You want to do a curve. Now select the curve objects that we created earlier. So boom, it's going to be a little bit funky right now, like it's going to be completely crushed and everything. Don't worry, there's an easy solution. So hold on, we're going to pan around just so you guys can actually see what happens. Click on the circle here. Now there's going to be two different ways to do this. You can click tab to do the quick way, or if you want to go up to the top left and just click on edit mode, that way works too. But we want to do segments, switch directions. Basically, this is going to allow the text to be stuck in the form that we need it to. Click tab to back out of this area, and click anywhere you want. That way you're no longer selected on the circle. Now the text is going to be able to be moving around wherever we want to. So to do this, we're going to have keystones here. So we're going to do RX45, for example, and just get this guy, that way it's facing directly towards us. Not it's like that, we won't have to worry about too many crazy things. So let's go and build up this little top bar area here. Now there's going to be two different methods. You can have it rotating forward or rotating backwards. I'm going to show you both ways. And you can also trim down your start and end time. I normally do 160 since it seems like that's going to be the perfect amount for like a full rotation if you do 45 degrees at every 20 intervals. But basically play around with this and see whatever you guys want. So to do this, we're just going to click on this little circle here. You want to click R, click it. Now see how there's a diamond down here? That basically means it's going to record what we just did. Now we're going to show you how to do it the reverse direction, then we'll show you how to do it the forward direction. So you have to do is RX45, then every 20 basically we're just going to skip it, boom, type in the exact same thing. So we're going to have 45 for each of these. Whenever you're done with all the keystones, make sure you unselect this, that way it's not accidentally making plenty of them. So let's start over from the beginning here. So if we do this, now there's two different ways to actually play. You can click the play button, or if you just click spacebar, it's going to automatically do it. So let's click it and see what it looks like. It's going to rotate around. It's going to come around here like so, and wrap around just like that. Now, if you want the text to wrap around the other direction, instead of positive 45 degrees, we want a negative 45 degrees. The quickest way to do this is going to be to right click, and you're going to see delete keyframes here. Now we're going to need to start our original one again, so let's just do this. So to get our original point, we just went R, boom, click, try to keep it as straight as possible, go over to the next area and do RX negative 45. And as you guys can see, the text is going to slowly start bending in a different direction. All right, so let's turn off our auto keyframes. Let's go and see what this one looks like just to show you guys the difference in the ways. So this one's going to bend down where the other one was bending forward. Based on where you actually have the circles, it might be reversed for you guys for the positive and negative area. And also, as long as you guys are in like this main viewport shading, it's not going to be too taxing on your computer. So there's going to be three different options here. You can do like a wire mesh area. You can do the white scale, or once you start going into here, this is going to be where our textures start popping in. Since we haven't actually colored anything, it's not going to be too crazy. So we're just going to keep it inside of this little basic area here. Now there's going to be some things that you can actually do to like change the font, make it a little bit more bold and everything like that. So if you come over to the A on the right side of the screen here, there's going to be the regular fonts. There's going to be sheer size. Basically, you can have everything so it's spread out a lot more frequently or however you want to. So there's going to be a few things in the geometry section that we actually want to do. So we're going to try to move around, pan the camera up, that way you guys can see what's actually about to happen here. So extruding is basically going to be making the text a lot thicker than it was originally. Now, if you want to change the font inside of Blender, we're going to have another video coming out tomorrow to show you guys like the easiest way to do it. But basically, if you go to dafont.com, you can download a font. It's going to show up in your C Windows/fonts folder. If it doesn't show on that, you need to make sure it's on your desktop. But as long as it's on your desktop, it's not going to be too hard to find. So if you click on desktop, for example, and if you want to just like save it around over here, and if you want like neon glow for your text, there you go. Now the text is going to be in this format here. It looks kind of cool, a little bit more unique. So you can change the size. Basically, you can make this bigger, smaller, and same with the circle. If you actually shrink the circle down, it's going to affect where our text is actually rotating around. It's not going to affect the direction of the keystones though. So if you want the circle to be a lot smaller so it's less of an intrusive curve, feel free to do that. But pretty much you can place wherever on the screen, it's not going to be too much of effect. Now, if you guys are curious how to actually color everything, if you click on shading, we're going to come over here to our text and click add. Basically, this is going to allow us to color it however we want to. For example, we don't want to do it too harsh. So we'll do something like that. Now there's going to be a few different things. So for example, the clear coat is basically going to be how shiny it's going to be. So sort of imagine this is like on a car. There's going to be some surface color. So basically you can like play around with the different things. I find it a little easier to click off of it. That way you can actually see like the true colors and everything that you're working with. All right, so now that we know how to color everything, if you want to actually change the text so it's no longer saying text. So since we have the text, so it's going to be defaulted on the x-axis. If you click tab, it's going to flop right down there. So hold on. So if we just type in our channel name, for example, Jurassic Acid, click enter, tab out of there, boom, it's going to automatically place. Now, if you guys notice, if you click on the shading tab, we do have like this little light green color effect here. It's got like a little bit of a shine and everything to it. Obviously, you can play around these effects here. There's going to be different emissions and stuff. But in the layout, it's not going to show. If you click on this first one, it's going to show like a very soft, subtle color. It's not going to be too taxing on your computer. However, the viewport shading is going to be what you're actually rendering at. So once you click on this, you're going to notice the lighting and everything is seeming to be very off. Now the light over here on the very top is going to be shining down. You can basically up it up, or you can sit here and swap to like a sun, spot, area. So whatever you guys actually think looks best for the lighting here. So for example, if you wanted to have it something like around there, clear coat and all that fun stuff. So we got metallic maxed out, clear coat. Clear coat roughness is about at 5.71%. Basically, if you want to just play around with this, you can customize fully everything inside of this. But once you click play here, it's going to actually rotate around. Obviously, it's going to have a few shadows and stuff. I think that actually looks kind of cool. Obviously, we're going for like this neon effect, so that's why it sort of shows like a very nice bright color. Now, if you guys are trying to render this out, you want to click on the camera here and make sure it's actually pointed at your words. So we're going to get to the front of our words here. Now, the easiest way that I found to do this is you can actually just like manually move the camera around, or you can sit here and snap it on the object. I like to manually move it around, especially in things where we actually have to like do stuff. So for example, if you want to click Z, I like to move the camera around manually. That way objects that are rotating around, you want to make sure it's always in the screen there. So for me, it's easier to understand if I like move it around. So if you want to do it the easiest way, if you just click like G, for example, and then click Z, is going to only move on the Z axis. That way, you know, you can like slowly move things up and just like get everything lined up properly. All right, so once you get it lined up the way you want to, there's going to be another thing that you can actually do. So Blender has an option to where you can actually change the focal length inside of your camera base. This is going to slowly zoom it in here. So you want to try to zoom it in not too far, else it'll like crop everything else. But if you do something like 65, for example, as far back as we were, or just try to get as close in as possible here, move the camera on, that way it pans around in the front, and you want to make sure none of the words actually get like chopped off. So I recommend like trying to play through the animation and doing it roughly like in the middle point and like the very end. That way you know it's going to fit the entire time. So we know that our focal length needs to be adjusted probably down to 60 then. So as you adjust the focal length, obviously it's going to change the way the words are going to actually fit inside of the screen here. So you want to move it around to make sure everything like looks inside of here. Now, you can actually have it at an angle here so it shows off more of the extruding parts, or you can have it face directly in front. I kind of like the way it looks with the angle here, so we're just going to keep it like this. Now, if you click on the maxed out viewport shading, we're actually going to see like the glittering effect that we had on there before. But before we actually render this off, we want to make sure that we hide the circle. Basically, anything inside of this little main viewport window is going to be showing up on the screen here. Now, the easiest way I found to do this is actually to do it in a PNG slider. So we're going to have 160 pictures since we chose 160 frames. And basically just upload that into your video producer and make it into an MP4. On OBS, you're able to get rid of the black lines and everything, which we will show you here in a second also. But if you guys are curious about the settings we use to actually export, we got 1920 by 1080 resolution, 100%, that's all maxed out. So the /TMP, if you guys are curious where that's at, if you go to your C drive, it's actually going to be its own unique folder. Basically, these are going to be temporary files. So since we have 160 frames, it's going to do 160 pictures. If you want to make sure the frame rate matches your picture, have that selected as 60. Color depth is RGBA. Basically, this is going to be so if you want a transparent background, that way you're not going to have to worry about it. Once you put it into MP4 format, you're going to have to get rid of the black background, but if you want to actually slap your name onto like a thumbnail or something, this is going to give you the transparent background that most people want. Compression at 15%, color depth of 8. Now, most of this stuff is defaults with just like a few things that are like completely changed here. So most of this stuff is actually fine the way we have it. So the higher frame rate is going to take a little bit longer to render out, but once you guys are satisfied, now another way to actually like see this without fully doing it is if you go in here to the animation tab, it's also going to show you how it's going to look. Once we actually render it out, it's not going to have like this whole bunch of squares and everything in the background. That's just going to be a temporary thing. Now, once you guys are ready, if you click on render up here, you can render out an image, which is basically going to be whatever frame that you're at currently. It's going to render that image out and then you're going to be good to go. Or you can render the animation. It's going to show you all different 12 frames. It definitely takes a while and it's going to be pretty CPU intensive on your computer. So expect this to take probably about 2 hours if you're doing 160 frames. Once it actually is fully done, it's going to be a lot smoother too. It's just while the computer is processing and trying to figure out like exact placement of all the words, it's a lot slower. As you guys can see, whenever you play this, the frames drop down to like 20, 18, etc. When we have it set to 60, it will be 60 once it's actually finally done. But unfortunately, right now it's just going to be bending down at 22. That's actually going to be it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial and it helped you guys. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.